Cignetti, for a guy who said Google the I win. He's backed it up. Back here on the Rich Eisen Show on ESPN Radio. We talked in the previous segment about the Fernando Mendoza leaping for the end zone touchdown. Before we bring in our next guest, here's his remarkable call of that awesome moment last night.
Got to get to the 8.
Perfectly called and summed up with my good buddy Chris Fowler, kind enough to join us here the day after. Great to see you, Chris. How are you, sir?
Feeling good. Bags under the eyes, but I hate to point out the flaws. But no, I'm making it, Rich. I'm good. That was a blast to call. Thanks for playing that call. That's a play that, especially when you watch it unfold in slow motion, it was so cinematic.
Yeah.
It's going to be remembered forever, not just by Indiana fans, by a lot of football fans who enjoyed the ride and enjoyed getting to know Mendoza in the last couple of months. And that was a cinematic, as Cignetti said, it's a hell of a movie, and it was maybe like the closing scene right there. The interception was, but it was a hell of a movie.
Well, I mean, and I was just saying in the last segment, I might be already getting too deep in the weeds here, Chris, but in this day and age of NIL and what kids play for, right? He's got Tom Brady, Mark Davis, John Spytek watching him. He's the first overall pick in the draft, coming in, and I think 100% now going out. But I'm just wondering, like, might there be somebody who's thinking, all right, first down's enough, I'm sliding, because I'm not putting myself on the line here, and heck with it, damn the torpedoes, I'm jumping head first against a team that's been targeting me all night. You know, that was incredible, Chris.
That's not Mendoza, though, man. He is consistently taking beats. Remember the Ohio State game? Big Ten championship, takes that massive shot. You thought he might be done forever. And he gets up. This is one play, comes back in. So we knew his toughness. But yeah, that was a cheap shot, not called, right to the mouth, bleeding, unfazed by it. In fact, he plays better, I think, after he gets rocked and gets challenged. So there was no way he was not going to go airborne and pay the price. Took 2 shots in that play. Once on the ground, then once in the air in the back. And like I said, it's one of those moments in my time of covering and calling games in this sport that I'll never forget. That's a beautiful freeze frame right there. Look at that shot.
Right, you look at his arms. His arms were banged up, bruised,
Oh, yeah.
black and blue. Yeah, that's it. Right there, that's the moment. In the end.
And he had the presence of mind to stretch the ball across the plane with 2 hands on it. I mean, there's so many components to that play. The call by Cignetti, when he didn't really want to have to kick a field goal, but he sent the field goal team out. Then the clock was running down. He knew they weren't going to be able to get off the operation cleanly, so he calls timeout. They come back over. Radicic is also 15, the kicker. So we didn't know which 15 in red is going to go out there because it was unclear. And he kind of said afterward that he said, bleep it, put the offense back out there, because he knew that on a touchdown there was really going to put pressure on Miami. And if you don't make it, you're still backing them up near the goal line. It was, in the end, a great call. It still surprised me because he had sent the field goal team out there to go up 6. But give him a lot of credit, man, for not only the guts to make the call, but having the knowledge that they had a play that could block well, that Miami had kind of tipped earlier. They weren't going to be great at defending, and the safety got lost, and it unfolded exactly how the computer's brain envisioned it beforehand.
So what is Curt Cignetti like in a pre-broadcast meeting? What's that?
Fascinating, man. I got to know him in the run-up to the Heisman. I'd never met him before. And we did a Zoom talking about Mendoza and talking about Ball and talking about their season and then obviously covering them in the Rose Bowl, where you have a little more time than most games to hang around and get to know him. He sits in the room and has a very interesting presence, which wouldn't be a surprise, and you'll see his press conferences and his interviews, but he'll look you right in the eye. He told us, not in regard to judging us, but in judging other people, recruits, coaches, that he can usually tell within 45 seconds or a minute exactly what someone is about through the look in their eye, their posture, their demeanor. So you feel challenged when you're with him to make sure that he understands that you're all in, you're attentive, you're paying attention, you're feeling the vibe. But I like that. I like disruptors. I like guys who have swag and bravado. But he's also a no-nonsense guy. You're talking a few minutes ago about the comparisons to Saban are very real. Not an achievement, because nobody's going to do what Nick did. Let's not get carried away. He's older than me. He's not going to win 6 more championships. But I think the way he goes about his business, the way he pushes his team's buttons is masterful. And the way that he judges talent and assembles a roster. Now, having said that, when Kirk and I said at the end of the game, Rich, and I don't know if you're going to ask this or not, but we said Indiana's not going anywhere. He talked about Mark Cuban, who was singing along to Hurt So Good last night in the commercial break, which I thought was funny. Having a good time. It doesn't mean you can do this again and again, okay? You have to get a lot of things aligned. Mendoza's not going to be there. They're bringing in Josh Hoover from TCU, good quarterback. I'm sure they'll coach and develop him extremely well. But so many of the pieces, so many of those 24, 25-year-olds that came from JMU and other places that were at their third or fourth school, they're not going to be there. So you really have to put that plan in place. He's got a great plan, but there are no guarantees Indiana's going to be running through the Big Ten and get back in the bracket and be there when the confetti falls again. I think their fans probably realize that.
So then let's linger in the current achievement a little bit more, Chris Fowler, because you're the perfect guy to ask about this. Been there, done that, been around, and also sat next to somebody named Lee Corso, former Indiana coach forever and a day. And this photograph popped in my timeline yesterday. It's a photograph of somebody who took this snapshot moments before Curt Cignetti's first game as head coach in Indiana at Memorial Stadium. For those listening on radio, good seats still available. And you were there last night for what appeared to be a partisan Indiana crowd in the home of the Hurricanes. Can you put in perspective for people what this achievement is, Chris?
A bunch of loyal, starving fans who had waited decades, and many told us it felt like a dream of a dream to even be in the Rose Bowl, to even be in the bracket, but then to dominate Alabama, dominate Oregon, and they really took over Atlanta, as you know. There was about 95-5 crowd division. The Ducks fans showed up, but they were disappointed very early. And then last night in the Hurricanes' home stadium, there was an Indiana crowd edge. They were vocal. They made it hard on Miami's offense in their own stadium to operate late in the game.
Yeah, you pointed that out on a false start prior to what was the final moments, Chris. No doubt.
And the crowd did that. The Indiana crowd did. I think they're euphoric. I mean, they're so appreciative. They've watched everybody else in the Big Ten kick them around for decades. No one in Indiana is old enough to really remember the glory days. I mean, you pointed out Lee Corso brought them their first postseason win. And before this season, they had a grand total of 3 postseason wins in 100-some years. They had 3 this season, all against top teams. Wow.
I know. And it does give, I guess, a message that it can be done, if not, again, at Indiana next year, but elsewhere. What do you think is the larger message of last night's game? Because, again, Miami had it right there and had the momentum, had a bunch of very talented players on the field, and it had it all set up, Chris. You know, do you have a message that comes out of the game last night?
Well, first of all, in the game, and they dominated early, and Miami took control in the second half, actually outgained them.
Right.
And I think Indiana won with special teams. The completeness of that team, maybe not fully appreciated because we're caught up in Mendoza and the defense is certainly rugged. They blocked 4 punts this year. They blocked one against Oregon, and the biggest play of the game was Kamara's block punt right there for a touchdown. And, you know, Miami actually lost 10 points on special teams at the doink on the long field goal try by Davis in the first half. So 10 points lost on special teams alone. You can't do that against a team like Indiana. For me, that was the biggest play of the game before Mendoza's touchdown dive. But it's complete. That's why I think his blueprint is repeatable, even though the result may not be repeatable. The defense is going to be strong. They're going to be sound. And Miami, by the way, is not going anywhere. I mean, Miami, I felt for them. I felt for Carson Beck. You know, we were along for his ride, his long career in Georgia, and now a year at Miami. And I felt badly for him. I get older, Rich, and I get softer emotionally about how these guys, you know, personally take a crushing loss like that. And he had done some really good things to put them in position to win it late. An 81-yard, a 91-yard touchdown drive against this tough defense after getting off to a very rough start. And in the end, you know, people will remember the pick by Jamari Sharp, whose uncle Glenn was the man flagged for pass interference when he played for Miami against Ohio State back in the Fiesta Bowl the last time. I think, is it not crazy? You live out in Hollywood. I mean, the movie scripts, the layers to this script are crazy.
Yes.
No one would believe it if you handed the script into a studio. They said, come on. We thought Hoosiers was corny. This is outrageous. But it's all true.
Yes, it is. Except for the fact, you've been to my house. It's not in the shadow of the W of the Hollywood sign.
We use Hollywood, or the metropolitan Hollywood
The
area.
entire.
But you hang with the luminaries of the show business world,
Yes,
and you
the
know
boy
about
Lloyd.
writers and scripts and things like this. So.
Yes, we do. So yeah, and again, that Tony, it's only fitting he wears Tyreek Hill's number. He's so electric. Oh my God! Every single time he got the ball, I bet you just you stood up a little bit in the booth because you just don't know what's going to happen when the ball.
I love that guy. I think he just turned 18 after catching the touchdown to beat Notre Dame in his first college game when he was 17. Had an amazing freshman season. He's wise beyond his years. He's extremely tough. He's a complete player. He's a team guy. He was called Baby Jesus in high school down here because it was just that good. And you talked about D'Angelo Pons, who played in the same youth league with the corner for Indiana, had a tremendous game, was checking him. And Signetti and Brian Hayes, as coordinator on defense, said they had multiple plans to stop Tony. And for a while it worked. But you keep feeding him the ball and he just finds a way to create space and make things happen. I think he's the most exciting player in the sport, and I love the fact that we're going to see him for 2 more years.
Yeah, he is that exciting. I don't think you overstated that at all. And I just, again, I love when he's got the ball in his hands that you just do not know what is going to happen. And again, there's a great shot caught by the crew last night as Carson Beck's getting ready to go out on the field for this do or die moment. And there's Ray Lewis saying, okay? And every single player that I've interviewed that's played with Ray says they never want to let him down. And when Beck threw the interception, I thought to myself, oh my God, how's he gonna see Ray Lewis after this? Because obviously, and I did see Ed Reed was going up to Tony in the tunnel and throwing an arm around him and things of that nature. It's kind of wild to see just the past and the present and future of Miami altogether over the last few weeks here.
That's been a fun thing to have the U back, Rich, is you got all those Bill Jackets out there, you got all those legends, those guys who are fully invested emotionally in the program and have suffered as the Canes have kind of slid into mediocrity and oblivion, and now, and they've been teased before. They thought maybe last year was the year, but the defense wasn't nearly good enough. This year, things did come together. Ray Lewis had told Carson Beck before the game-winning drive against Ole Miss, let's go do it. And he kind of repeated the message. Did he get the same result? Michael Irvin down there on a 4-point stance on the sidelines. That's one of my takeaways from the playoff is our buddy Michael Irvin in a 4-point stance.
Yeah, hey, and SNL sent him up, over the weekend. Like, he actually got some SNL run out of it as well. So before I let you go, Chris, much made about the College Football Playoff Committee and the way that they go about their business and how about they come up with the rankings for weeks and whether it really ran an okie doke on somebody like Notre Dame. Now that the CFP and the 12-team field is complete this year, what do you make of it? What do you think about moving forward now that we saw the way it all did play out this year?
We have a deeper understanding how important those final selections are, right? Because a lot of people didn't think Miami belonged in. They were the last at-large team in, the 10 seed, and they were good enough to win a national championship last night and came just short. But I think that's the new normal. They're going to have teams with a couple of losses that play in tough leagues. Maybe they dare to play somebody in the non-conference, which Miami does. Indiana, unfortunately, does not. They will not be challenged again until the Big Ten schedule. And I don't think you want to penalize those teams, but you see how tough it is because Notre Dame, had they gotten in the bracket, they could have gone on a run. Right. Perhaps Texas could have gone on a run. So the teams that were 13, 14 on the wrong side of the bubble were very capable of making deep runs, just like Miami did. They didn't get a chance to, and it takes something away from the Canes. But I think we're seeing that people may begin to wonder why the James Madisons get in, why the Cinderellas get in, why a group of 5 team automatically goes in by being the highest ranked conference champion. Maybe they should need a certain rank. I know inclusivity is very important in the world, in this sport, but I think that's going to be looked at because unless they want to expand to 16, you're going to have some good teams left out, and we have to pay attention to the last teams in because, like Miami, there's a team from the Big Ten that's 3rd or 4th, or the SEC. They are also capable of doing this, and that makes it fun. I love the fresh blood in the bracket this year. I call this the least predictable matchup we've seen because most teams, you get at least one of the side of the matchup has been predictable. It's at Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama. This time, Indiana's 100 to 1 before the season. And I pointed out last night, because remember this, Miami was 100 to 1 when the day before the bracket came out. People weren't sure they're going to get in. And they saw that path, and there was still hope for long shots to get anywhere close to that game last night. And that shows you that, I like to say there's no foregone conclusions in college football, but there have been some very predictable results in some earlier playoffs, and not this year. I hope it continues like this, because it's been a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. I mean, everything you just said is right. But then when you sit here and say Miami going on a run shows that there should be more teams like Miami let in, as opposed to James Madison, when it's won all by a program run by a former coach of James Madison, only 3 years removed, for a program that had never done what they've done. It's wild, and it's all
I'm not
true.
saying, by the way, I'm not saying throw James Madison out.
I'm with you too. I'm with you too, which is why maybe, Petiti is saying let's expand it to 16, and then or 24, and Sankey's like, wait a minute, less than that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the conversation that's being had right now. It needs to be, I think, rectified by the end of the month for it to change in time for the fall.
Yeah, if you're going to succeed, you got to do away with the buys. You can't keep adding layers of games unless you're going to restructure certain parts of the sport.
Right.
Shorten the regular season, get rid of the conference championship games, at least in the SEC and the Big Ten, where they're meaningless in terms of the bracket. They mean a lot to win that trophy in the conference, but they don't mean anything because both teams are going to go in. And in the case of the Big Ten, both teams got buys. So you can't just keep adding layers. I mean, teams are getting much, much better following the NFL line with keeping these guys recovered and as fresh as possible. I was skeptical when this started, and there they were in game 16, and Miami and Indiana pretty darn healthy considering, and the guys have plenty of energy to finish that game, and it's remarkable. It's a testament to the players, but I don't think you can just keep adding more and more games and another layer in the bracket. You got to have some common sense.
Makes sense. Would you mind sharing with everybody where you're going later on today, Chris?
Yeah, I have a car to the airport in a couple of hours to go to Melbourne, Australia for the Australian Open, which is already underway. And
they didn't hold it for you, Chris? They didn't wait for you? They didn't wait for you.
Last year I only got to do the last 4 days. This year the calendar is different, so I get down there at least at the end of week 1, and I can't wait. It's a brand new season down under. It's summer, and I get to work with the tennis team, and I'm fired up for it. And I can sleep on planes, so it's all good.
God bless. I love it. That's awesome. And I texted you beforehand. I saw on my feed something from our buddy Andrew Siciliano, who's hosting a pod. Somebody was giving a theory that Jessica Pegula changed her coach despite her level of success to get over the hump. She makes the U.S. Open final, and that maybe her dad felt the same way about his head coach with the Buffalo Bills, Chris. Not to cross the streams here, but that's a theory out there as to why Sean McDermott might have, in part, been shown the gate in Buffalo.
I'll ask Jessica that if she influenced her father. That's a good question for him.
No pressure. I know, right?
Yeah, it's wild though. You see this NFL. I mean, apparently making the playoffs isn't good enough anymore. And I thought the tennis coaches got fired with regularity. Most players go through 4 or 5 within a 2-year span. NFL's getting like that.
I know. And so, best of luck on your time with the Open. It's great to see you. It's great to see you before the Rose Bowl as well out here in Hollywood.
See you at the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, let's do it. You'll be there. You want to predict? You want to get out there? You'll get aggregated, Chris. I know you want to get aggregated on ESPN. Go for it.
Would you predict the game? Who's going to be in the game?
Yeah, who's going to be it?
Well, I say I have an agenda. I'd like to call fun plays.
Oh.
So no. So the Seattle defense worries me. Who's going to make a first down against the Seahawks? I mean, I'd like to see some excitement. I did grow up a Broncos fan.
Yes.
Full disclosure. Whether they can do it with Jarrett Stidham, I have no idea. But I'll be out there. But dude, it's a no pressure. We call for the Aussies and the Kiwis and the people on cruise ships.
Nice.
Believe me, I'm not going to be stressing over it. We're going to have a good time with really good Orlovsky.
Right. You're calling Super Bowl 60. So I will see you there for the international group. For everybody outside.
Your listeners fly to Australia so they hear our call. It's a short 14-hour flight.
Best to Jennifer, sir. Thank you.
That's the Susie. See
That's
ya.
it, Chris Fowler, everybody. Heading off to the airport to go to sleep. God bless him.